On the evening of November 2, 1988, the internet began to disappear. There were no websites to refresh, no social feeds, no smartphones. The network was smaller, quieter, and used mainly by universities, laboratories, and government researchers. Then machines at Berkeley, Harvard, Princeton, Stanford, NASA, and other institutions started slowing down. Some became almost unusable. Administrators watched unfamiliar processes multiply faster than they could remove them. Within roughly 24 hours, an estimated 6,000 of the Internet's 60,000 connected computers had been affected. One program had reached about 10% of the network. It did not erase the Internet. It did not destroy thousands of files. It did something more instructive. It copied itself until useful work was crowded out. The person responsible was not a foreign government or a criminal organization. He was a 23-year-old graduate student named Robert Tappan Morris, and the program that escaped his control would help create modern incident response. To understand the shock, forget the Internet you know. In 1988, the World Wide Web had not yet been invented. The Internet connected more than 500 networks and approximately 60,000 computers. Researchers used it for electronic mail, file transfers, shared databases, and access to expensive computing resources. Trust was not merely a social value. It was part of the architecture. The network had grown from research systems designed to make communication possible, not from a consumer platform designed to survive constant attack. Security fixes could move slowly. Different institutions managed their own machines. There was no single operations center with authority over the entire system. That openness made the network productive. It also meant that one weakness could become everyone's problem. Morris built a self-propagating program, software able to move from one computer to another without waiting for a person to carry it. The worm looked for computers running particular versions of Unix and tried several ways to enter them. Contemporary technical analysis documented weaknesses in network services and the use of guest credentials. The exact recipe is not the lesson, and we will not reproduce it here. The important point is that the worm did not depend on one spectacular flaw. It combined several ordinary weaknesses that made it resilient. Closing one door did not guarantee that another was closed. Morris also tried to keep the program from being stopped by a simple lie. A computer might claim it was already infected even when it was not, so the worm would sometimes copy itself onto a machine that said it already had a copy. That decision created the disaster. The worm was meant to spread quietly. Instead, repeated copies accumulated on the same machines. Each copy consumed processor time and memory. More copies created more work. More work made the machines slower. Slower machines made the emergency harder to diagnose. At Berkeley, a warning moved through email. The network was under attack, but even the messages explaining the problem had to travel across the network, being overwhelmed. Administrators disconnected systems to protect them. Others rebuilt machines or worked through the night to identify and remove the program. Institutions that were normally connected by the Internet became islands. Later reports describe damage estimates ranging from at least $100,000 into the millions. The precise number remains uncertain because lost time, recovery work, and interrupted research were difficult to price. The scale is clearer than the bill. Thousands of computers, many major institutions, and days of disruption. The worm's author understood that something had gone wrong. According to the FBI's historical account, Morris contacted friends, admitted he had launched the program, and asked for an anonymous message to be distributed with an apology and removal guidance. The irony was brutal. The network was so impaired that many people did not receive the warning in time. Another friend contacted a newspaper. During follow-up conversations, the initials RTM slipped into the story. Reporters connected those initials to Robert Tappan Morris, then a first-year graduate student at Cornell. He had released the program through a computer at MIT, a choice prosecutors later treated as an effort to conceal its origin. The technical mystery was becoming a legal case. Congress had passed the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act in 1986, only 2 years before the worm. Prosecutors charged Morris under that young law. In 1990, a jury found him guilty. The federal appeals decision that followed examined two questions: what unauthorized access meant, and whether prosecutors had to prove that Morris intended the resulting damage rather than merely the access. His conviction was affirmed. Morris received probation, community service, a fine, and the costs of supervision rather than a prison sentence. The case became the first conviction under the 1986 federal computer crime law. The legal precedent mattered, but the operational response changed the Internet more immediately. Days after the incident, the Defense Department directed the creation of a computer emergency response team at Carnegie Mellon University. The idea was simple but transformative. When a network-wide security emergency happened, someone needed to coordinate information, analysis, and recovery. The worm exposed a gap that software patches alone could not repair. The Internet needed shared procedures. It needed trusted contacts. It needed institutions capable of treating a technical anomaly as a coordinated incident. Government investigators also identified broader weaknesses: no clear security focal point, uneven protection at individual sites, and delays in correcting known software holes. The emergency was not only the product of one clever student, it was the result of a system that had scaled faster than its defenses. The Morris worm is often described as the program that brought down the Internet. That is too simple. It affected an estimated tenth of a much smaller network and forced many institutions to disconnect. But the Internet did not permanently vanish. Its real legacy is more useful. First, small programming choices can become global when software is allowed to copy itself across trusted systems. Second, combining several modest weaknesses can be more dangerous than relying on one dramatic exploit. Third, incident response is not an optional service added after security fails. It is part of the security system. Robert Morris later became a respected computer scientist and entrepreneur. But on one night in 1988, his experiment demonstrated a rule the connected world still struggles to remember. The network does not care whether disruption began as an attack, an experiment, or a mistake. It only experiences the consequence.